Well, firstly, my name is Andrew McClelland, and I'm currently the chair of the Northern Ireland branch of the IHBC. So firstly, congratulations again to Manchester for a fantastic summer school. I think it's appropriate in terms of moving from Cottonopolis this year to next year moving to what Belfast had historically been known as Linonopolis. Obviously, during the industrial development of the city, in particular in the 19th century, it was a very important centre and probably the only industrial city really on the island of Ireland, and grew particularly strongly from the 1820s to the late 1890s. And the kind of broad theme of next year's summer school, as you can see, which is taking place the 21st to the 23rd of June in the city of Belfast, is focusing on our shared heritage and really looking at issues around communicating, negotiating, and obviously using that in the transformation of places. I've only got 5 minutes, so I can't go too deeply into the theme or the city. This is really just to give you a flavour of the place and the kind of things that we will hopefully see and that we can discuss during the summer school. Of course, not only is Belfast known for its linen production, it's also particularly known for its dark sense of humour, as well as a particularly large boat that had a very unfortunate initial journey over 100 years ago. And of course, the city itself, over the last 10, 15 years, has really been using the Titanic and all of that kind of industrial heritage now to market the place. And some of that good, some of that bad, but of course we'll have an opportunity to see and to discuss on site some of the changes that have been taking place within the city. It's also particularly known, of course, in the contemporary past for some of the issues over intercommunal divisions, over the Troubles, etc. And this particular wall is one of the largest peace walls, is actually the largest peace wall within the city. This is at Cooper Way in the west of Belfast. It runs for 2 to 3 kilometres. As you can see, it's quite a tall structure as well. It's of course a separating wall, but it's also a tourist attraction. As you can see, some of the pieces of artwork that have been added to the wall and all of the various international people that visit this particular site. It's of course, its meaning and values are changing in a sense. It's a separation barrier, but it's also these other things. And in a sense, if we're talking about shared heritage and talking about how we negotiate some of these complicated and conflicted meanings and values surrounding places and structures, I think somewhere like Belfast is particularly good to look at these really complex and complicated issues. And this is a place which is, of course, known, particularly perhaps negative connotations from the past, but it's a place that has really been transforming in the last 20 years. And I think this is quite a good shot, which you can see a much better version on the leaflets in your pack, which shows one of the main civic spaces within the city, which is now very much a shared space within the city. But you can see this complex layering of history from the Victorian, the Edwardian era, through to the yellow crane at the background at Sampson and Galath cranes in the Harlem shipyard, which were built in the late 1960s, 1970s, but are actually scheduled monuments that still function. You can also see some of the more recent, the dome, the glass dome, Victoria Square covered shopping mall, which has been inserted within the historic fabric of the city just in the last 10 years. So it is a place which is transformed, but is also undergoing transformation as well in terms of the diversity of the population. And again, this is something which we can hopefully tease out next year. So we will be located in terms of the main day school conference venue in the south of the city. This is Riddle Hall, which is now operated by Queen's University. So Queen's University main building is close by. It's of course within conservation areas dating from the Victorian, Edwardian era. So it's a very fine historic building with a contemporary extension. And for the day school next year, this will be our main venue. From here, we will then visit in the various tours all 4 corners of the city. So we will go into the very different, let's say there'll be different narratives from the different places that we will visit. But again, that's all part of kind of the intangible values and the complex framing of the issues as they relate to place within the city of Belfast. And I think it's appropriate that we go in to all 4 parts of the city and don't just confine ourselves to the leafier, the wealthier South Belfast, where the Queen's University is located. However, it won't all just be about Belfast. So We also propose a number of trips outside of the city, one of which is to Armagh, which, as you can see with the cross, it is actually the ecclesiastical capital of the whole island of Ireland. So there are the two main cathedrals on the island within Armagh, which is also probably one of the best kind of Georgian era small settlements on the island as well. I've just heard today that it has received Stage 2 Townscape Heritage Initiative approval. So there are ongoing schemes, heritage-led regeneration schemes within Armagh. There's also a redundant jail, initially dating from the Georgian era, which appeared in one of the very early restoration programmes. And that's still vacant, but there will be an opportunity to visit it and to hear about some of the ideas around the reuse of that particularly important historic building. We also plan to obviously see the countryside and not just the urban context, so there will be an opportunity to go to County Fermanagh to see a cluster of National Trust properties. This particular property is Florence Court, which is the Northern Ireland Committee of the National Trust. Obviously some fantastic scenery. It's about two hours outside of Belfast, so there will be an opportunity to visit some of the bigger houses and again to hear some other different aspects of shared heritage as they relate to the rural landscape. And then finally, I'm also proposing, much like when the annual school was in Edinburgh and there was an extra day trip up to Orkney, I'm also proposing then on the Saturday to lead overnighter to the city of Derry, or Londonderry, depending on how you like to frame that, and that's part of this contestation. This is actually a shot from inside the Guildhall, the main civic building within that city. It was, of course, the first UK city of culture in 2013, so there has been quite a lot of heritage-led regeneration within that particular city. Next year is actually the 400th anniversary of the completion of the city walls, and there are, again, ongoing regeneration sites relating to old British Army barracks within the city, which are, again, very interesting spaces to tease out some of the issues surrounding shared heritage. So this is really just a very brief taster, if you like, for next year, and I obviously hope to see as many of you there as possible, and I will be around this evening and tomorrow, and if anyone would like to chat further about that issue of shared heritage, I'll be happy to speak with you, so thank you.
Andrew has failed to make the point that might have occurred to some of you, the cost of getting to Ireland. And it's necessary to say that getting to Belfast is cheaper for many people in England and Scotland than getting to London, for example, or to Bristol by rail. So don't be put off by a misperception of how much it might cost to get there and participate.
And that actually also reminds me of another Manchester connection. So many of you will be flying into the George Best Belfast City Airport, which is obviously another transition from this particular annual school. So cheers.